every single one of us was created with an internal gift. And when you don't try to search and see what that eternal gift is, then you're actually not only doing yourself a disservice, but you're doing a disservice to the people around you.
You're like me, you've always had a desire to do more. And deep inside, you've known there's a way and a possibility for you to achieve your dreams, the lifestyle, and achieve the freedom you've always wanted. Because we have what it takes to get things done and learn from others and get the mindset to achieve the dreams we've always wanted. Welcome to SB Warriors. Hey, what's up, everybody? Paul K here with Ryan Tillman. Ryan is the man. He is absolutely breaking down huge things, and I'm actually really blessed and feel honored to have this conversation. Ryan, for those who don't know you, please tell them what your mission is and what you're doing.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So yeah, my name is Ryan Tillman, and thanks again, bro, for having me on, man. The pleasure is all mine, man. It's an honor to be on that you would ask me to come on. So I really appreciate it. But yeah, my name is Ryan Tillman. I am the founder of Breaking Barriers United. I always like to tell people that I'm a police officer by day, entrepreneur by night. So my day job, I've been in policing for about 5.5 years now. Work out here for a local agency in Southern California. And then by night, I've been running this business for about four years, and it's growing tremendously. So it's kind of crazy, just kind of being on this roller coaster to success.
Because I've seen you talk on uses of force with law enforcement. I've seen you give talks to like high school kids. And what is your actual business that you're actually doing?
It's so funny, man. So it's kind of evolved into so many different things. On paper, it's a consulting firm. But there's so many different things that we do as an organization. I guess what kind of got it all started was about 4.5 years when I got into the profession. I started seeing law enforcement completely differently. I started understanding why we do what we do, how we do what we do. And a little bit before I got into law enforcement, I wasn't the biggest fan of police officers. I didn't like them. So, when I saw things differently, I was like, I wonder if I can go out there and educate people about some of the myths and, things that people would say about law enforcement that weren't necessarily true, because I saw it differently. And so what I started doing was a presentation that I call the Initiative Workshop, which is basically putting people in our shoes as officers. But I tell my story, I tell people where I come from, why I didn't like cops, the treatment. And then, so I started doing that presentation. I was right on the heels of Ferguson. And that presentation just kind of took off. I was doing it in churches across Southern California. And then I ended up going on to do presentations in high schools and middle schools. And that's really kind of where the business actually got started on paper, was because, people wanted to hear more. And so that's what I did.
So how did you kind of find your way? Did you just start doing it and people started, hey, you need to talk to so-and-so? Was it organic?
Oh, it was completely organic, man. I think the part that was organic was me just speaking about it. I've always had a knack for public speaking ever since I was young, man. Like I remember doing a keynote presentation in middle school. And so, and the other part is actually the relationships that I kind of started establishing with people. That was also organic. I would just meet people at different places at different times, and then they would introduce me to another person and so forth and so on. And it kind of just grew from there. And it's still kind of the way my business continues to grow, is just kind of word of mouth. But the organic part of it was, I've always had a chance to speak in front of people. And so I kind of just fit right in my mold. And it's funny because when I was in college, so I played college at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I played there on a football scholarship. And when I was there, I always wanted to run my own business. That's all I did. I was like, man, I just want to run my own business. So I had I can go down a list of different business ideas I had. I've lost money, investing in different business ideas. I developed business plans for different business ideas. And when I got into law enforcement, I was just kind of like, man, like this is a wrap. Like there's no more running my own business. I got my career now. So it's done. And little did I realize that was just kind of the tip of the iceberg when I realized there's actually a need for what I do now in law enforcement, and that can still be a business. Yeah. And so I remember with my cousin, he's a very successful entrepreneur. He always told me, he was like, Ryan, when I look at a burning building, everybody's like running away from that burning building. I'm kind of the guy that's running towards the burning building and waiting for the firefighters to put it out. Because once they put it out, then that's when I'm going to go in there and try to figure out how I can revamp the place and just do it way better. And so that's kind of my philosophy towards law enforcement is, there's a lot of people running away from the profession on both sides, internally and externally. And I'm kind of the guy that's running towards it, trying to figure out how we can redo this profession. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, when I leave this earth, I want people to say that, Ryan changed the face of modern day policing.
How are you perceived, first of all, in your department, taking on this responsibility? They're like, hey, young buck, like, what are you doing? Well, you don't know. How did you get through that?
Oh man, did I definitely go through it 100%, bro? Like I had this idea for BBU when I first got off of training. So I was on less than a year when I had this idea for BBU. And I'm a very spiritual guy. I was praying about it, man. I was like, I think this is what God wants me to do. So I ran with it. But bro, I took so much criticism from people, and I get it looking back at it. I understand why people would say that. It's because they're like, here's this young buck, traditionally they've always said you don't really start knowing your day job until you're about 5 years on. So I understand that philosophy, but at the same time, I kind of, I like to use analogies. And as a former football player, you have vets that have been in the league for 7-8 years and they get comfortable. And then you get this, number one draft pick that comes in and he may not know the offense, he may not know the defense that way, but the dude is a ball player. You're not going to keep that dude on the bench because he's a rookie. You know what I mean? You put him in the game and he's probably going to run up numbers more than any of your vets. So yeah, your vets may know the game a little bit more than the rookie does, but I guarantee you the rookie's going to put up better numbers just because he's fresh and he has a different insight and his body is fresh. And so it's kind of the same thing in law enforcement is you can't always discount your rookies. You know what I mean? Like your rookies are good, and yes, they have a lot to learn, but your rookies are still untainted. Your rookies are still, have that positive attitude. Your rookies still want to change the world. So why discourage the rookies when the rookies can actually go out there and bring some new insight to the profession? So when I start looking at it from that perspective, man, it kind of just allowed me to just start tuning. Like I needed people, I needed to realize like, I'm not always going to have people that are for me. I'm not always going to have people that are supporting me. And so the faster I could learn to shake stuff off like that, the faster I was going to be able to mature to have a successful business.
Well, I think no matter what, there is a need to do what you do. There's a need in the marketplace. There's a need in society for people to put out this information, because I don't know why departments aren't doing it enough. You're filling a huge goal, a huge gap that like, hey, this needs to happen. So balancing that, because you're married, have kids, you do this, and you also work.
Right now, I'm working day shift. So right now, I usually work Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday. Just depends. I mean, it's always like I'm working right now 10-hour shifts.
So I can imagine like you're always juggling,
Yeah, because I have a full-time job, I also have I'm a family man, and I don't want my kids to grow up and say dad was never there, dad never did anything. So, I really invest. I obviously number one into my family. My relationship with God is another thing, and the business kind of just comes after everything else. So right now there's like different pillars of my business, and the main thing that I have is my speaking business. And that's where I kind of just go out and I'm contracted through multiple school districts. And now I'm actually traveling across the country. I've been to St. Louis, Minnesota. I'm supposed to go to Jersey next month. I'm going to Oakland in September and then Denver in November. So I'm speaking, to departments and schools, and churches still. And then on top of that, we actually have an after school program called Chosen, where I actually hire police officers to go in and teach kids about law enforcement and also career development stuff. And so that Chosen program right now is currently in 2 schools, and is actually, it sounds like we might be in the 3rd school starting this new school year. And that's fun because, I get to pick and choose the officers that I want to go and teach our kids. And the kids love it because we change their perspective in so many different ways. So we have that going. And then we have a podcast, man, that we've been doing for less than a year. We've been doing it for almost 8 or 9 months now. And it's downloaded in over 11, 12 countries, man. I had somebody buy a hat from me from Germany. I thought that was crazy. So I had people reach out to me from Ghana, New Zealand, places I didn't even know had police departments, man. So, and then we have an apparel brand, obviously the BBU. And the reason behind the apparel brand is not because I want people to buy apparel from us. It's because I want people, when they see our logo, to know what it stands for, to know that when you see a person wearing a BBU shirt, that person stands in the middle, there is no left or there is no right. This is a person that stands in the middle and tries to see both sides. So that's the purpose of the apparel brand.
What do you think the biggest thing you would recommend people to kind of get rid of the fears, like literally people shaking when you coming up with like telling you Miranda when Miranda isn't applicable, all these things, right? So what is the biggest thing you would recommend the average person of color or not to kind of like understand, like, hey, look, this is what you need to understand?
Man, the biggest thing is simple, man. And I always tell people, like, I'm not giving anybody like any groundbreaking information. I'm not like a Aristotle or a Einstein or nothing like that. It's common sense stuff. But you know what? Sometimes I realize like we forget the common sense stuff. And so what I tell people is like, just comply. Like if a police officer pulls you over and he gives you directions, just comply. Just do what they say. Whether or not you think the stop was appropriate or not, just comply. I actually had a discussion with a friend of mine. His name is Tam, and Tam is a civil rights activist. He's an attorney and everything, you know. Or he told me, he was like, the time of the place, the time of the stop is not the place to argue. Like
exactly,
that's what court is for. That's what we go to court for. That's the place to argue. And so I think oftentimes, and I get it. Like I'm not going to sit here and act like, or I wouldn't be mad if I got pulled over by a police officer that didn't have any right to pull me over. Like I would be pissed off. And quite frankly, that's why I didn't like police officers before, because I had some interactions like that. Like I had some situations where, you know, police officers I felt were unjustly trying to talk to me or harass me and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, what I realized is like, you know, that one, they have a job to do. Two, sometimes police officers are the cover for other people's racist antics. And what I mean by that is like, you can have a person that's a racist person and they'll call the police because they see a black guy or a white person or a Hispanic person walking across the street, and they, in their reality, they don't like that person, which is why they call the police. So the police show up and have to talk to them, and we have no idea that the person that called in is racist, but yeah, we end up being on the opposite end of the racist antics that they got going on. So what I realized is like, just comply with the police officer's instructions. I have very rarely ever, I don't think I've ever seen a video where somebody was killed by the hands of police instruction that they were giving them. I've never seen that happen before. And so I highly doubt that it would happen. I mean, am I going to sit here and say that every single police officer is not good? There are definitely some corrupt cops out there. There's actually a video out right now about a officer that was just arrested for planting drugs on people. So you definitely have those, you know, idiots out there like that, but the majority of people are good. And so if you just comply with officers' instructions, I guarantee you'll make it out of that stop alive. And if you don't, then, you know, I would definitely be at the front line of your lawsuit, you know, trying to defend you, because it wouldn't be right. But I've never really seen anything like that.
Are you being in law enforcement and going through probably an IA before, are you on the front line, hey, recommending like, hey, look, you can also go through things administratively through the department? Do you recommend that as well? Or do you kind of like, okay.
Of course, because and I always tell people, like, if I do something I'm not supposed to be doing, then like you have every right to go to my supervisor and complain. Like it's funny, man, I was in a IA a few years ago where I pulled some guy over for, you know, he was riding his bike on the sidewalk or whatever. So yeah, I pulled him over. I recognized him before, and the dude was just giving me a hard time. He was not complying with anything. I told the dude not to go in his pockets. He went in his pockets anyway. So as soon as he reached in his pockets, I basically slammed the dude to the ground, put handcuffs on him. And then I found out later that, you know, he complained on me. Now, after the end of the complaint, like they watched my video and found out everything I did was justified. And so, you know, if you feel like you've been done by your officers, yeah, go to their supervisor. But I actually rather you go to the supervisor if you feel like it's done wrong, because at least you know you'll get an internal investigation. Like, you know, and if that officer didn't do anything wrong, then great. But if he did do something wrong, that's something that the department needs to know about, because just as much as we're out there trying to fight crime and keep our streets safe, departments also have an obligation to make sure that all their officers are complying and operating within policy.
I had a chance to come to an organization that was talking about policing, and they were mentioning how they asked for body cameras, but then they were complaining now that everybody has footage of them. And I'm like, how can you have, you can't ask for both things and complain about it?
Nope. When we first got the body cameras, I always said, like, you know what, as long as I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, then I have nothing to worry about. Are there times where, you know, my body camera will be on and I say something that I probably shouldn't have said? Yeah, there's times, because we're humans. And that's what I try to convey to the public is like, you can't think that police officers are perfect. Like, if you sat there and watched nothing but body camera footage of a police officer in their shift, there are going to be things that you're not happy about, because we're human beings. It's just like anybody else that goes to their regular job and talks trash about people that they work with, or their boss, or the people in the, like, it's the same thing. Like, or customers. Like, I used to work in Abercrombie and Fitch, and you have a couple customers come in that just got on your nerves, and as soon as you left, you start talking about them. Well, if that was on body camera footage, it wouldn't look good. You know what I mean? Like, it just wouldn't. So, like, it's impossible to sit here and say that all body camera footage is going to be perfect. But for the most part, as long as you're morally, ethically right and doing what you're doing, you have nothing to worry about. Like, I'm afraid to hit the streets now without my body camera, because I would rather have my own camera tell a story than somebody else's cell phone.
That's a good point, because it only picks up certain angles, and anybody in law enforcement, I don't think the public realize how hard of a job it is. So hats off to you and all your fellow members, and especially your department, how they work. And like, people don't understand, it's a needed part of society, but the way the media comes at them, I think people are going to wake up and going, what happened to all the cops one day?
Yeah, and that's what's the unfortunate part with the time we're living in right now, is there are more police officers that don't want to do this job anymore, because we've had a successful economy over the last 6 or 7 years. People are like, why should I go risk my life when I can get a job in corporate America making, if not the same, more money?
So how did you decide that, what, I'm going to speak, I'm going to do all these things, and then launch a conference? Like, where did this conference idea come from?
Again, bro, going back to my faith, bro, like, one day I'm just driving, and, like, I'm constantly prayer. I'm constantly in prayer and meditation and stuff like that. And I literally woke up one morning and had this idea for a presentation. I went to my laptop, and it's like, I feel like I was a rap artist just in the studio busting out lyrics, bro. Like, it literally just came off the top. And so, and it came through effortlessly. Like, it didn't take it wasn't hard or nothing like that. And it's kind of the same thing for the conference. Like, I was driving home. I had been to Eric Thomas's, a few of his conferences. I had been to other conferences, and people were like, oh no, they got all these relationships, all about who you know, right? So I was like, well, shoot, I'm gonna make my own freaking conference and I'm gonna be the keynote speaker. So that's kind of where it came from, and just realizing, like, if you really think about the way cities and municipalities are broken up to, you have educators, law enforcement, and city officials and civilians. Like, those are the four components that break up any municipality.
Okay.
So I was like, so why are we not training together? Why are we not learning together? Like, why is everything broken up and divided? You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, why not put a conference on where we can have everybody come to one central conference and talk about multiple different aspects of our communities? Because if we can take proactive steps to keep people, safe, keep people, or educate people, keep people out of jail, then everybody benefits from that. You know what I mean? Like, as a school resource officer right now, like, I recognize, like, if I don't get some of these kids in check, then the police officers that are on the street right now are going to end up dealing with the student. And then the city government's going to suffer, because now we have to spend more money to keep these people off of our streets as transients. So, like, let's figure out what we can do together collaboratively. You're
going to work at something. It's just a matter of what you're working at. And it's just understanding, like, those people who end up committing crimes, they're working at it. They're scoping it out. Mm-hmm. They're taking the time, they're taking the energy to put it towards something. The result of that might be temporarily positive gain of some money, but long term, like, that's not there. And so, like, that mind shift, what you're doing, that mind shift change is so needed, especially in the youth. It just, like, sometimes you're like, man, you're just one person, right? Like, do you ever feel like that? Like, I'm just one person, man.
Yeah, I do. And that's why, I started multiple different things, like the after school program. Like, the after school program runs if I'm there or not. And the good thing is, like, it's my philosophy. It's like my curriculums and things that I thought about. And so I'm there without having to be there. The thing about speaking is I can only be at one place at one time. So, that's why, eventually, man, I got so many different things in the plant and in the network, bro. Like, we're going to be putting out trainings online for, civilians and for officers. We have a recruiting business coming in to solve the issues of, how do we get more police officers to want to join the profession? How do we get quality officers? So, man, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface, man, of what BBU is going to look like in 15, 20 years.
Wow, that's awesome. I really appreciate it. So if people want to get a hold of you and kind of find out more about what you do or your services, what's the best way to do that?
Best way to get a hold of me is through email, man. So just email me directly. It's going to be ryan@breakingbarriersunited.com. Or you can also hit me at info@breakingbarriersunited.com. Go on our website if you want to know more about what we do. It's breakingbarriersunited.com. And so, that's kind of the best way to reach out to me. And we got so many different things, man. And like, it's a phenomenal opportunity to still be able to have a good day job, but run my own business like I've always wanted to from the get-go.
Wow. Well, keep doing what you're doing, man. I appreciate you coming on.
If you ever wanted to do something to change, society, change your life, change the world, whatever it is, stop thinking about it and just do it. Like, I know people say it all the time. I know you probably listen to podcasts. I know you listen to people around the world, but just do it. Like, you can honestly, every single one of us was created with an internal gift. And when you don't try to search and see what that eternal gift is, then you're actually not only doing yourself a disservice, but you're doing a disservice to the people around you. Every single one of you has a gift out there. Go out there, figure out what that gift is, and use it to benefit not only yourself, but the society around you. So thanks again, especially Paul, man. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Hey, SB Warriors, thanks for listening to today's podcast. If you like more help to grow your business, you're going to want to participate in the 21-day business challenge, where we're going to show you how to use video advertising to grow your business in your area for your niche and help you get more customers and outreach than television. This is an amazing opportunity. We're going to do it in 21 days, and we'll take you through a complete process that will absolutely blow your mind. Also, if you like today's show, we ask that you leave feedback review on iTunes so we can help grow the show to other business owners just like you. And if you're looking to get more tips and tricks and insights, feel free to join our Facebook group where we share information about how to grow your business in today's internet marketing world and help you gain more customers with insights from other business owners just like you. Thanks again, SB Warriors, and keep pushing.